All right, we're part two, farm scene. We're doing a really cool, simple sketch. This is about maybe 5 by 6 or 5 by 7. We said that we were going to do a simple farm scene, and we have some distant hills. We have um, a cool, like, small farmhouse and some trees and some more trees over here. So two large trees here. So this is a very um, important part of the composition. It's kind of draws the eye to the top portion of the painting, along with the farmhouse here. And then we had some hills in the back here, some rolling hills, and perhaps this is a smaller farmhouse over here. We could change that around. Maybe we'll just color that in and paint over that. I don't know if that necessarily looks that great in the drawing. It didn't come out so well, so we can paint over that. We can always do that, change things as we go. And then we have the fields here, and then we have some farmers here, and they're working on in the fields here, maybe planting some seeds, or they're maybe um, harvesting some of the crops here, and they're loading up a wagon and so forth. So we have some interesting farm figures here, and um, and that's in a good location here. That's in the lower right hand corner. I could have moved this a little more into the picture. I think if I had to change this sketch, I would. And this is why I always say sketches and small thumbnails are great to do, because then we can look at them and then say, if we were going to do a finished painting, a larger painting of this, let's say, or just another, we were going to do another painting of this, but a more finished painting that we might want to frame, we would look at this and then say, can we improve upon it? So right away, I'd say if I wanted to improve upon this right away, looking at it from a design standpoint, I would probably want these figures moved in more into this location here. So I kind of situated them a little bit too far right in this corner. I should have moved them over this way more, but that's okay. And even the painting that I'm looking at across from me has them over here more. So I just, for whatever reason, I wasn't concentrating enough, and I I tended to put them more over to this side over here. But this can work too. And and then of course everything else looks in pretty good shape here. So let's get in with our paints. And then very simply, what we're going to do is with our paints, and I'm going to just have to um, I'm going to have to grab my brushes across the way. So now that we're going to paint, we're concentrating on, again, we're going to make this a simple color scheme. We're not going to get um, too fancy with the colors. We're just going to kind of, we gave it a nice first wash of a gold color. And now we're going to start to put in some dark tones and some middle tones. So um, we're going to stick with our same colors and then add a little bit. So we'll put in some raw umber, raw sienna, raw umber, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and we'll go in with some French ultramarine blue, and I think that's going to be pretty good. Maybe some cerulean blue over here. So we'll put some cerulean blue over here. We're going to need a little bit of blue, so I'm looking at the painting, and maybe a little bit of mineral violet for the distant mountains a little bit. And I think we have some good color to choose from here. And it's not, you can see the paint is not running at all. So we want to use straight out of the tube thick paint for this second and third wash, or we could call this our second wash, where we're going in and doing the darker tonal values. So And I'm going to go in here and kind of do this quickly so we can keep this, this is a learning exercise for us here as we go. And I want to make sure I'm getting these good and dark, so I'm making sure I get that French ultramarine. And my brush is, I'm going to switch to just a little bit smaller brush. Sometimes I try to paint with a bigger brush. Like, a lot of artists seem to say that. I notice, like with a lot of watercolor artists, like the top pros, they always say, use the biggest brush you can. Always use the biggest brush you can. So I'm always used to hearing that, and it's true. It is kind of good to paint with a larger brush whenever you can. But for this here, we're doing a small sketch here, so it's a little more difficult to do that. But okay, and then okay, that's a little light for what I see across from me, so I'm gonna put a little bit of blue in that. A little bit of cerulean blue I'm gonna put into that raw umber. Darken that up a little bit, and that looks better. Still has to go a little darker, and I think I can go with some. So there I can use a little more raw umber and burnt sienna. And I try to do those little flicks just to kind of get that feel of these being the trees here. And we'll move into some darker. So I'm going into some of that French ultramarine blue mix with the raw sienna for the bottom portions of this. And we can go outside of our border there, that's not a problem. And that's looking all right. All right, that looks pretty good. We're going to have to get in our the trunks of those trees soon. Okay, let's do that. We'll get some nice dark burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. And just some nice flicks here just to get those. And you can take your time more after this. So I'm just putting in the shadows as I see them across from me. And then I think here, as long as we change the tonal values, I see some interesting line work here. There's some in the back. As long as we change the tonal values of this, it'll look good. So I'm going darker, lighter, darker, giving it some variation. And here I don't want to really get too much and now here this part is the same thing. We want to change, put in some variations here across. So this is like that dirt road that runs across here, kind of giving us the step backs of like the roads and the hills, and that makes for a nice three-dimensional quality. And we'll put the roof in there. Got the tree over here. So I think the main thing with this really is if you can kind of think of it, try to change, even though we're only using a few colors here, we're only using like really like the warmer colors, like the the yellows and the browns and the dark red, like the burnt sienna. We're kind of only using these a lot, or mostly, in the painting, but if you can variate them and change them a lot, that'll really go a long way when you do something like this. And then you can add in some, which is what I did, is I added in some cerulean blue to this mix as I went along, just to get some darker and some changes in it too as well, um, a little more, varying the color a little bit and the tonal values too. The cerulean blue gives you a little darker tonal values in there, adding a little bit of coolness to it. And then here we can do the a change over here. This is good to practice the good, fun, quick strokes of just having fun, and it's loose, and we'll do some splashes. And we have some more lines here. And then after this here, we can go in and get some cadmium lemon. That's actually cadmium yellow. That's the warmer yellow. And then we can add in a little bit of, and that's just a nice change too. You add a little more of that cadmium lemon, or cadmium yellow, not cadmium lemon. That would be, and then we have a nice warm look too. And again, we have a nice kind of a road here kind of thing. So we'll go across. And then we'll do some kind of flicks, for you can get a nice needlepoint brush, and for some of the wispy parts of the painting here. And I noticed there's some other details like that, just a few going across, and can really make a nice added effect to the fields to make it look more interesting. And then we'll get into the figures here. Just real quickly, I'm going to kind of try to do these. And for this one here, he's going to have a white shirt, so I'm going to kind of go like that. And then I'm getting into just some of the finer straight colors. And then you can take your time with the figures. But as you can see, this is sort of how we put together this small sketch. And then we put our figures together and kind of join them to maybe a wagon here we're looking at here, or a car, and we can finish up the figures a little more. But that's basically the essence of the painting. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye for now.